Hey, exotics suck. With Warmind, a lot of them are getting way better. Exotic weapon masterworks are also coming. So let's talk about that or something. First, let's talk about exotic masterworks, since that's relatively new information. Exotic masterworks are not 100% the same as legendary masterworks. In order to start a masterwork on an exotic, you'll need to find a catalyst for it. How do you get said catalysts? Well, Bungie isn't really going to tell us, which is good. There will be some sort of a hint when you hover over the catalyst slot on a weapon, but that's about it. Some hints will be more or less vague than others. For example, Coldheart's hint is relatively straightforward, found in strikes against the most challenging enemies. But others will hopefully not be as self-explanatory. Catalysts will not have equal drop rates across all Masterwork exotics. Some are guaranteed after X amount of time of doing something, while some are more RNG based. Once you pop in the catalyst, you'll unlock the legendary weapon benefits, like kill tracking, double kills giving an orb, etc. To unlock the final upgrade, which gives a large bonus to the weapon and the stat increases, you'll need to do another thing. Again, we'll use Coldheart. Defeat enemies using Coldheart. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple concept. Some will just make you do one thing. Some, multiple things. But they will always be defined once you get to this stage. It will not be RNG to complete this portion of the Masterwork process. Some will be easier than others. Other information includes Masterworks are once per account, not character. Duplicates of an exotic through engrams, milestones, or your exotic collection will maintain the current Masterwork upgrade state. I'm not sure if that means that if you're 50% done with the upgrade that it'll keep it or what, but either way, that's good. Masterworks will stay in the weapon inventory screen, so there's going to be no items taking up your weapon slots. And not all Masterwork exotics will launch with Season 3. So if there's not a socket there, it's just not available yet. Yeah, nothing too bad from me on this. Masterworking full sets of gear is actually a pretty long process. I know I have a lot of armor sets that I'm currently working on, and this sounds like something that can keep people busy for a while. I've been preaching a lot lately about the reason why I like World of Warcraft so much. And that's because whenever I log in and do something, I know I'm going to make progress towards some kind of goal. Whether that's increasing my weapon's power, getting a gear upgrade, earning money, doing achievements, whatever. I know that I will move my character's bar forward in some likely meaningful way. With Exotic Masterworks and what we heard at the Community Summit, it seems like these are going to have that sort of effect on the game to some degree, where you can log in, and if you're out of things to do for the week, you can go work on an Exotic Masterwork. You can make progression towards something when you log in, instead of just feeling like you're going in circles or feeling like there's no point other than shooting guys in the head. There's nothing wrong with that, but in a loot-driven game, there should always be something for the majority of people to go chase. Not to mention that some effects of Masterworks are going to be quite potent, which will make the weapons even more fun to use. Next is the Exotic Weapon Sandbox update, where a large portion of weapons are getting buffs because a lot of exotics suck. We do have some good ones: Acrius, Merciless, Wardcliff, Vigilance Wing, Risk Runner, but in terms of function, they all pretty much function as normal. They just do the job way better than their legendary counterparts. More unique items are not as good, or just feel like you're using a legendary weapon with a different skin on it. So let's go down the list of exotics that are getting buffed that we know about so far. Exotics not getting any adjustments are Legend of Acrius, Merciless, Telesto, Wardcliff, Mida, Colony, and Vigilance Wing. First up is Sturm and its counterpart, Drang. Right now, Drang kills will overload bullets into Sturm, and kills with one weapon reload the other. So, get a bunch of kills with Drang, and you have a huge Sturm magazine. The synergy was cool, but the weapons themselves didn't feel any different. It was just a hand cannon and a sidearm that happened to work with each other. The buffs are as follows. Drang now has Rampage and a maxed out magazine, and overloaded Sturm shots now get a bonus damage boost of 1.8x to actually make those overloaded shots worth something. And yes, this works in PvP to get 2-shot kills. So the synergy is there, and you can feel the effects of the synergy a lot more now. There's a much bigger payoff. Next up is Skyburner's Oath. Skyburner's Oath is a pretty good scout rifle against the Cabal. That's it. Otherwise, it's just a scout rifle, and even against Cabal, it's sometimes hard to notice the small damage increase. The buffs are as follows. While aiming down sights, the function of the weapon is mostly the same, but now you get explosive rounds. When in hip fire, the gun, quote, now lobs slower projectiles at a faster rate of fire that tracks targets and explode. Precision damage was reduced and body shot damage was increased because of how the game tracks projectiles, but the overall damage is still increased. It seems like the goal was to really differentiate the weapon's two states, ADS versus hipfire, and they are certainly different now. Next up is Rat King. I did a rant on Rat King a while back saying that the only two things the gun doesn't do, full auto and increased damage, are the only two things that people actually wanted. Well, we got full auto. At least we got one of them. Next, the Rat King effect will be active when teammates have the weapon equipped, regardless of if they have it out or if they have it stowed. They increased the stat benefits with smaller fire teams and increased the invisibility time on Vermin to 7 seconds. I think Rat King also only used to be 20 rounds in the magazine when you had 6 people stacked. Now it's 24, but I could be wrong. It could have been 24. I'm just too lazy to check my other video. Next up is Graviton Lance. Graviton Lance is sort of a high skill weapon, relying on getting that third shot to crit, making it more like a scout rifle than a pulse rifle. But the payoff of hitting that third shot crit was not high enough. The weapon has been changed to a 2-shot burst from a 3, actually giving it a slight edge over other pulses in PvP now with other adjustments that it has gotten. Next, the explosion effect. It never felt like it really did anything at all, because the radius of the explosion was too small, the damage was pathetic, and the explosion was always sent way backwards instead of staying near a group of enemies. The killed enemy will now float slightly up instead of very far back. The explosion is bigger, it deals more damage, and it throws some void field projectiles into the area which seek out targets. Much, much better. Next up is Tractor Cannon. The Tractor Cannon boops people off of cliffs and ledges, and in PvP it works, and it's funny and all that, and it's good. In PvE, you can't really boop anything actually threatening. You can't boop bosses or other high-level enemies, and while I understand why, probably because Bungie didn't want people booping bosses off of cliffs or into spaces where they shouldn't be, that means that the fun part of Tractor Cannon is useless in high-level PvE. The buffs are as follows. In addition to its current effects, targets hit by Tractor Cannon are now suppressed, so it works like a suppression grenade. This debuff also makes the target vulnerable to void damage for 10 seconds, and while the effect won't stack with itself, it will with other damage debuffs like Tether and Melting Point. Unfortunately, Tether nor Melting Point work on Argos nor Callus, so that's a little disappointing, unless it changes, but other stuff will be vulnerable. The suppression effect is probably one of the more underrated things for PvE, although it's not as potent as a blinding effect like from a flashbang grenade. Next up is Hard Light. Now, I actually think Hard Light is super underrated as a weapon, especially since auto rifles are so good. But one buff that it is getting is the Borealis effect, where holding reload will change the element on the weapon, which is great. The other thing, which I'm not too excited for, is where ricochet rounds now do double damage. The thing that Bungie actually wanted to do, which was increase aim assist on ricochet, proved to be too taxing on the game engine when multiple people were using it. The example they gave was, imagine everyone in your PvP match all using hard light with all those things having to go on in the background. It was just too much. But at least when you do hit something with a ricochet round, it'll hurt. And if you don't think I'm at least gonna try to ricochet round a raid boss, then I don't know who the hell you think I am. Next up is Borealis. Borealis is a sniper with a higher than average magazine size for its class. That's about it. Now, Bungie is playing into the elemental fantasy a little bit more with this weapon, where when you break an enemy's shield of a matching damage type, you get double damage until you reload or damage swap the weapon. So, you break an arc shield with Borealis on arc, you get double damage. It's pretty nice, helps you secure kills on high threat targets. This effect also works in PvP. So if you shoot a Dawnblade while your Borealis is on solar and you break their shield, you get double damage. And before you freak out about how OP this is going to be, the amount of times you're actually going to be in this scenario is probably not too many times. A couple more were shown in the Warmind reveal stream, Risk Runner and Crimson. Crimson is Destiny 2's answer to Red Death, and much like other parts of the game, Crimson fell flat on its face. Slam! Got him. High skill weapon with very low payoff and low damage, with low ammo, made it very, very difficult and annoying to use. First, the ammo reserves are getting a large buff, so you don't need to rely as much on the auto reload for ammo. Next, the damage is being made more competitive in PvP in an attempt to equalize it with other hand cannons in terms of time to kill. Fighting Lion is also getting buffed. Again, it is getting more ammo, more damage is added to the detonation, while the damage of the impact of the grenade is getting reduced a little bit. Finally, Risk Runner is already pretty darn good, with Arc Conductor being one of the strongest effects in the entire game. Now, with Arc Conductor active, you'll gain a shield that makes you resistant to arc damage, and yes, this will work in PvP, reducing arc damage taken by 50%. The Arc Conductor buff can now proc while you have the weapon stowed as well. As you can imagine, all of my thoughts on these buffs are positive. Exotics are crap and have been for a pretty long time, at least most of them. Exotics need to be two things: rare and very strong. Unfortunately, the rare portion can't be fixed for this current batch of exotics, but at least that are getting buffed up now to actually feel exotic and to be maybe worth your exotic slot. It's fine to have utility exotics, but their utility or niche effect needs to be better than what you'd normally have as a legendary in that slot. Bungie seems like they've been learning that lesson. Bad exotics can exist, but not this many bad exotics. So I'm glad to see a lot of them getting their due diligence. That's all I got for you guys on exotics. This is more of a news update than a thoughts video because all this stuff is really good, and I can't imagine many people being mad about the inclusion of such things. Maybe you're not over the moon about these things, but I can't imagine most people are shaking their fist in the air at Bungie for buffing exotics. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.